So before getting started, YouTube actually openly acknowledged now that they don't show the videos that I upload, or any creator for that matter, to subscribers unless they have the notification bell. So if you actually want to know when I upload a video, you have to hit the notification bell, which I normally would never even try to tell people to do because it's cringy when you do, but whatever. If you don't hit that, then YouTube might just decide to not promote my videos to my own subscribers. So fuck YouTube, hit the notification bell if you want to see the uploads. I spend a lot of time harping on the negative. A pretty large chunk of the topics that I choose to cover deliberately are critical and pessimistic, but that certainly does not mean that all of the industry news is as bleak. So today I want to again discuss Cyberpunk 2077 and make the case that what we are seeing is on par with, and perhaps exceeding at times, typical levels of delusional industrial hype, but the atmosphere surrounding it is distinctly different in a positive way. That may seem confusing, so let me clarify. The industry norm, at least on a AAA level, has shifted from accurate pre-release marketing with finished product launches to flat-out lies. There are, of course, exceptions to this, there always have been and always will be, but all too often now games are pitched as one thing and then released as something else entirely. And due to a lack of meaningful regulation, there are no lasting ramifications for that practice outside of temporary consumer distrust and backlash. Running parallel to this is the underlying progression of monetization. You have companies like Take-Two Interactive that set up objective-based bonuses in the millions of dollars as an incentive to meet microtransaction revenue targets. Then there is EA, having kicked off one of the strongest customer backlash cycles in quite a while, and now expecting to play on the backlash they themselves created to help sell their newest Star Wars game. Far too many releases nowadays are operating under a normative blueprint which revolves around massive levels of pre-release hype to spike the sale of gimmick-laden pre-order bundles. The industrial hype machine is a well-oiled construct capable of fleecing gamers at every single turn by manufacturing unrealistic expectations and then playing those expectations against buyer FOMO, or fear of missing out. The truth is that far too often, gaming publishers and developers know that they have a shit product. Does anyone really think that Bethesda genuinely believed Fallout 76 was good? Fuck no, they knew it was garbage. Is anyone out there under the impression that Rare was not painfully aware of the fact that Sea of Thieves at launch was a piss-poor excuse of a game? No way. There was basically one enemy type, 3 activities, and half of a rendered Kraken. Is anyone out there suffering from the delusion that BioWare believed Anthem wasn't a shitshow? I hope not, because we now factually know that they were well aware of how broken it was before release. So with an established knowledge in many cases of a game's impending disappointment, the tactic pivots from accurate marketing to a reliance on the industrial hype machine. Cyberpunk 2077 is already one of the most anticipated titles I've ever seen. The hype for this game is climbing to epic proportions, and we don't even know the release date yet. There are entire YouTube channels already springing up dedicated exclusively to Cyberpunk speculation, leaks, and lore, and within that group, some of them are a total shitshow. I don't know much about the situation, but there was one small Cyberpunk YouTuber who false copyright struck another one, and there's a whole bunch of shit going on with that. From what I watched, it seemed to be a severely misplaced sense of possession regarding the game. Basically, a YouTuber by the name Kazuliski calls pretty much everyone else who talks about the game street rats and other skeevy insults while avoiding real direct confrontation. To be honest, he sounds like a bit of a little bitch. The cardinal sin among YouTube creators is falsely striking another person's video. That's just something you do not do. There are enough problems with that already, but I'm not an expert on the entire situation, so to tie it back into my main point here, the hype is escalating, and because of its intensity, there is this strange sort of possessive attitude cropping up within the already blossoming creator ecosystem pertaining to the game. So with the hype levels climbing at every turn for a game that, if we're being honest, we don't know all that much about, some viewers may be wondering why I'm not trying to rain on everyone's parade. I am, after all, too negative for the now sickeningly naive, positive vibes only jackasses that dominate social media. Well, there are many different reasons, but I will try to condense it down as much as possible. The first reason is because I was in the room at the E3 2018 world premiere. Now, in any typical situation, this would not mean a damn thing, because E3 promotional material often cannot be taken seriously. It's probably the pinnacle of false industry hype nowadays, and total false advertising. But the Cyberpunk 2077 press event was a bit different. The reveal took the shape of an hour-long continuous gameplay demo that was played live by a developer in the room, that we could all see while it was happening. It was not some fake scripted lie, it was actual gameplay. Now, to some degree, it was a curated section, so it's not like it was indicative of the exact experience that Joe Schmo would have when jumping into the game for the very first time. It was a mission with opportunities to show a varied spread of mechanics, at the very least, but it was readily apparent that this was not some engine-generated fabrication. This was an actual product that is functional and pretty damn cool already. Now, since then, a full gameplay segment has been released to the public, and it seems to be pretty consistent with what I witnessed at the convention, so all in all, that's the first positive sign. The second reason I view Cyberpunk's escalating hype to be different than the infectious disease of typical industrial hype is because of CD Projekt Red's track record. CD Projekt Red is responsible for the Witcher series and fought a long and arduous battle to retain both the rights and publishing control for not only that series, but all of their games. CD Projekt Red does not have a controlling publisher. They are their own publisher. This may seem abstract, but imagine if DICE, the creators of Star Wars Battlefront and the Battlefield games, didn't have EA looking over their shoulder. Imagine if Treyarch or Infinity Ward, the developers behind Call of Duty, didn't have Activision Blizzard pulling the strings. We can't say for certain that it would be all sunshine and rainbows, but a great deal of the problems that I find myself continuously at odds with in the industry are perpetrated by major publishers when they force creative teams to conform to deadlines and benchmarks which are detrimental to the game as a whole. CD Projekt Red also owns GOG, a site that has been the recipient of largely positive community goodwill for quite some time because of its pro-consumer format. And lastly, CD Projekt Red is fresh off the heels of The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, which has been heralded as one of the best single-player open-world games in history, not to mention its 2 DLC offerings, which were the epitome of proper, wide-scope add-ons. In fact, both of The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt DLC packs were quite literally larger and more deserving of their price than some of the full released AAA games that come out nowadays. Cyberpunk 2077 is a large, open-world, single-player RPG just like The Witcher, though yes, the setting is vastly different and there is a shift from first to third-person perspective. But as a baseline, this is a company sticking relatively close to the format that they have proven beyond any shadow of a doubt to be adept at navigating. The third major reason I perceive the hype to be different is because of the already established pro-consumer policies that CDPR projects. When rumors of Cyberpunk 2077 possibly being a live service game surfaced, CDPR was quick to answer with a confirmation of not only an avoidance of the live service model, specifically likening the game to Witcher 3, but also made it clear they are avoiding the now mainstream predatory trends of excessive monetization. Yet another reason the hype appears to have a distinctly different flavor is the timing. It has been made clear many times now that Cyberpunk 2077 will not be launched until it is ready. This ties into the previous point regarding lack of an overarching publisher who might subject the game to an arbitrary fiscal deadline, thus pushing it out the door before it's ready. Not only that, but CDPR has received millions of dollars in extra funding from the Polish National Center for Research and Development as part of an initiative to grow their local game scene. So in terms of support and stability, the company is anything but struggling and taking the proper time to fully develop this title. CD Projekt Red has nothing to gain and absolutely everything to lose by succumbing to the now anti-consumer industry norms. As most other development companies subjected to the will of large overarching publishers are operating under a revolving door principle that has them pushing out annualized releases or half-baked live service products, perhaps even chasing trends, CD Projekt Red is taking the exact opposite approach and receiving positive hype for legitimate and deserving reasons, rather than lying to their audience or tricking them into being supportive. It's easy to make the claim that gamers are too critical and too negative. Some industry professionals, though that word is used with absolute sarcasm here, are of the mind that gamers on average are just angry, entitled assholes. An easy example is the knee-jerk reaction of Randy Pitchford, Gearbox's CEO, to the review bombing of previous Borderlands games after Borderlands 3 was unveiled as a timed Epic Store exclusive. But the false narrative that gamers overanalyze the industry in order to find things to hate is quickly disproven. Most recently, after the fire that damaged Notre Dame, Ubisoft pledged money to help restore the cathedral and also held an event surrounding some of their games. Players took to Steam in order to show their support, and what occurred was a reverse review bombing, if you will, in which players showered the game with positive feedback because the connected publisher had done something worth praising. Events like this clearly show that when something good happens, it is not ignored. The issue is just that good things in the AAA gaming space are not as common as they should be. The hype levels surrounding Cyberpunk 2077 are off the charts, but not because of typical industrial hype. The optimism for this particular game stems from a number of indicators that establish a sense of security for gamers, a feeling that there is a mutually beneficial relationship between themselves and CD Projekt Red, rather than a predator-prey relationship like what exists when considering the likes of EA, Activision Blizzard, Take-Two Interactive, or Bethesda. When a customer feels like the products they are buying are crafted with their own best interests at heart, they are willing to pay more, and they are willing to show support in ways other than simple financial spending as well. The hype surrounding Cyberpunk 2077 isn't just hype for the game, it's hype to support a product that we believe is truly made by those that love and respect not only the game itself, but the consumers who buy it. I still advocate keeping a clear mind, of course. I cannot say with 100% certainty that the game will be some amazing industry-shaping construct of pure beauty. Who knows? It may be terrible. I doubt it, but it's possible. But even when embracing the idea of reasonable skepticism, there is also reasonable optimism, and the framework is laid for Cyberpunk 2077 to potentially be a truly exemplary display of modern gaming. To summarize, standard industrial hype is a fucking disease, but that does not mean that all hype is the same. What we see now with Cyberpunk 2077 is not hype like, oh my god, it's gonna be so good. It's hype with context, and with a motive. It is hype with a message, and I see players all the time who are excited because of multiple different factors. Factors that they can actually articulate, not just, I saw the trailer and was like, oh my god, it's amazing, like what happens all too often in the rest of the industry. But that's it. Enough for today. If you want to support the channel, check out the links down below. We have various different gaming communities, merchandise, and some other stuff too. But I'll cut it there, and I'll stop rambling. As always, thank you all for watching, and have a nice night.